Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at BTC. This is going to be a higher time frame video. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. So in our previous macro video, what we discussed was the idea that we could be looking at this as a bigger 5-wave structure from the beginning here of November 2018, where this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and what we're actually looking for is a 5th wave to the upside, looking to push us up towards this zone here of 170,906 to this 97,144 level. That would be our most common target area for a wave 5. Now, if this is the case, what we would then be saying is that once this wave 5 completes, we have a couple of options. Either this move would be said to be 1, 2, and then this would all become our wave 3, in which case we'd get an additional 4th and a 5th. And that would then mean that what we would be looking for would be a retracement in a 4th wave target, which would be here, this 50,765 to this 19,440. Now, I would be anticipating the higher level of this being tested if this does become a 5th wave and we see a retracement back down. This would align with coming back into these regions. Alternatively here, what we could also have is that if this is actually a bigger 1 and we are looking for a wave 2, what we could then see is a deeper retracement here, and that target area would actually be lower down between this 382 and this 786. Now, the idea here would then be that this move would then become a bigger 1, 2, and then we'd be looking for a bigger 3rd wave to the upside after this. This is going to be a very important level here. I reckon that the 382 is going to be quite an interesting zone because of how it lines up with the structure here. Alternatively, if we do see something like this 50% is also going to be an important level, in my opinion, to keep an eye on. Now, we could also argue here that what we have is that this move is rather a bigger wave 1 completed, and then we're looking for this as a wave 2. Now, it's possible that this wave 2 could complete here because we did come down between the 382 and the 50%, and what this would then mean is that we would be looking for a bigger wave 3 to the upside, which, given the logarithmic scaling here, would say around 2,286,000. Now, we would also have to just be careful here, because what we could see if this is playing out in this way is that we could also get something like this, where this becomes 1, 2. We see a smaller wave 3, which just breaks this wave 1. We get a wave 4, which comes back and crosses this wave 1. And then we see a wave 5 like this. Now, this would be called a contracting diagonal pattern within the Elliott-wave theory. And this would then mean that this would be a leading diagonal if this is the case. And what that would mean is that we're going to potentially see this move complete and then look for a deeper retracement. Now, an interesting zone for this to keep an eye on would be between this 176 to this 105 area. The 0.618 is on the lower end of that, so I would be keeping an eye on this if we do start to see price looking to reject in this area and we start to see this fall down. What we would be anticipating here, though, is to see this wave 5 break above this wave 1, get a wave 4, and get this nice wedge shape pattern here. That would then align with this idea. Until otherwise proven, I'm going to be looking for the fact that this is either a 5th wave, or alternatively this is going to be extending even further. That's my primary expectation here. However, we also need to be careful, because if this is in fact a wave 1 completed into the high here, and we are looking at this as a possibility for a wave 2, the time relationship between this move up and this move down is not great, because we only came towards the 0.382 of this time relationship to the wave 1. So if we do see this as a bigger wave 2, it is possible still that we could see something like this as an ABC pattern to the downside if we stay below this high. Alternatively, if we break this, we could still see this play out as a flat correction, where we would be looking potentially at an expanding flat or regular flat, depending on how we interact with this high. If we stopped with this high, then we could be looking for that 1-to-1 move to the downside, but we would have to just be very careful of that possibility. Unless we continue to see the good impulsive structure develop to the upside, we could see prices look to revisit some of these lower levels. Okay, so we're going to focus in now on the idea that we are looking for this extension in this 5th wave here, or alternatively that this is becoming a 1, 2, and we're looking for a 3rd wave to the upside. I'm just going to go over to the daily. Now, the primary way that I'm counting this, and we were talking about this from the 30th of August 2023 when I made this video about 170k Bitcoin incoming. Basically, as long as we held this low here, I was saying we need to be aware of that possibility of a push to the upside here. there was two ways that I was looking at it, and we're going to go over the primary way now, which is saying that this whole move here is actually wave 1, looking at this as a wave 2, and then that would mean that we are within our wave 3 now. Now, the typical zone we look for wave 3 is actually the 76,729. If, however, we do get something like this, where this is actually a wave 1 extended, this is a wave 2, we could see that this becomes a wave 3, 4, and 5, and we could see a shorter wave 3. Now, what I would then be looking for is that the wave 3 is actually longer than this wave 5, but we'll have to wait for that structure to develop. I'm not going to go too much into the lower degree counting here, but effectively there's two ways that I'm looking at this, that either this move is going to extend directly to the upside from here and we're going to get a bigger 5-wave move, or we're going to see something like this where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get something like a diagonal or extended wave 1, see a retracement and then go. Or alternatively, this move could become 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we start to push to the upside. So we're going to go over a couple of those ideas now. So this is looking for the idea of this wave 3. I said most important target here is the 76,729. And what we'd be expecting is that if we do see price push up here, we'd get an additional 4th wave and a 5th wave. The 4th wave is not allowed to cross this wave 1. So we would have to gauge where this wave 3 ends exactly. Now we're going to go over a couple of counts that could give us some ideas to these. There is a couple of ways I'm looking at this, like I said. Now it's possible that internally here we could just have this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we could actually just be looking to complete this move in this range. Now we have come into this typical zone that I'd be looking for here. These are based off of the wave 1. And what I'd be looking for is the potential that we could see a rejection here, somewhere between this 2.618 and this 2.146. We can see here that the higher level here of the 72,000 would align quite nicely with coming back into this as the top of a channel. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that level if we do continue to push to the upside here. However, we have already reached this 236 and we have the 2382 sitting at this 68,106. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those levels. Now, within this idea, what we'd be saying is that effectively this move here is 1, 2, and that we're actually forming another 1 and a 2. So if we do complete this 5-wave move to the upside and we start to see a bigger sell-off to the downside. Now wave 2s are most commonly zigzags, but we would have to keep an eye on it. So it would be something quite violent if that is the case. And there's some key areas here, particularly the higher levels, that I'd be very interested to see how we react if we get something like this. This 236 to this 50% level would align quite nicely with the structure that we've got over here to the left-hand side. So I will be keeping an eye on that if we do see price starting to reject more heavily from here. But if we don't, it is possible that this move could just be extending to the upside. Now, what we could see here is that even though, like I said, we haven't hit that typical 3rd wave target, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this zone here, which is moved up slightly. So let me just move that, which would be between this area here of this 61,851 to this 50,846. If we see a smaller retracement back into this zone, I will be also paying quite a lot of attention to this previous 4th wave that we got over here. That would be a good zone to actually see a reaction off of. But if we do see a reaction to the downside here and then start to see 5-wave structure up, we could actually see this develop as either just an extended wave 1, or alternatively this could become a diagonal pattern and in a leading diagonal where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now as a diagonal, it's not allowed to cross this 69,201 before having this correction for the 4th wave. From that point, wave 3 has to be longer than wave 5. So we will have a target area for this 1-to-1 level where it couldn't move past. Now, if we did come back down into the 54,000 area, this would mean that we can't cross the 87,147. Now, the key thing within this is if this is a diagonal, this would mean that the idea of this being 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 again is more likely. Alternatively, if we do get this and we start to push up above the 69,210 level, this would invalidate the idea of the diagonal, but I would still be looking out for that possibility of seeing extension here, where what we have is that this is wave 1, 2, and then internally here we have this as a wave 3. We're going to get a 4 and a 5. If that's the case, I would say that there's possibly some extension within these waves where this is becoming 1, 2, maybe another 1, 2, and another 1, 2. And then as long as we continue to hold these higher lows here, we could actually look for this to extend to the upside. Now, for something like that to be taken into account, I'd want to see price push past this 88,382. But if we continue to just get small consolidations and continue to push up, then it's likely that we're actually getting this extension within the structure, and it makes it more likely that we're going to see this actually continue to just push up for this wave 3 target here of this 76,729. So that's going to be the primary area I'm looking for if we continue to push up. Now, it is also possible that this wave 3 could be extending, and what we could see is something more along these lines. Now, within this idea, what we'd be saying is that internally here, we have a series of 1s and 2s where this is 1 and 2, and then we're getting this as another 1 and a 2. So much like the other idea, if we get a deeper retracement here, we could then see that this is actually becoming 1, 2, which would then mean if we retrace towards this 46,700 area, our target for the third wave would actually be here at this 106,232 level. So going to be keeping an eye on this. Basically, if we continue to hold this low of this 38,555, this is still a potential here where we could actually see this extend out even further, which would mean that our higher targets would potentially push us towards this 171,000 area, is also aligning quite nicely with the 2.618 of this wave 1. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those levels to see exactly how we react here. Obviously, we are coming up to this previous high here, so we need to just keep an eye on it and see exactly what happens from this point, because if we do just get a rejection, I'm going to be primarily looking for the idea that this is either a wave 2 in this instance, or alternatively this is a wave 4 in this instance, where we're going to see another push to the upside. If we see a bigger retracement, this potential on this count, I don't really like it because it's quite untidy looking. The other one would make a bit more sense, but if we do see a retracement deeper, where we look to target out this 43 to this 29 area, failing to break 24,901, this would align better with the idea that actually we have to have this additional 1, 2 here before we get that bigger push up in our third wave. So that would be the bullish case of what I'm looking for. One last thing that I want to cover before we end the video up is just something that we need to just be a little bit careful of. Even though I am looking for this as potentially looking to continue this trend to the upside here and to continue an impulsive structure to the upside, we still cannot rule out that possibility that we could be looking for this deeper retracement here back to this 382 to this 786 level of this $6,000 area. Do I think we'll go this low? Potentially no, but what I'm just mindful of is that there is a bearish count here, so I'm going to be monitoring this even though it's not the primary one. I just want to make you aware of it. So the idea here would be that this corrective move is not completed, and what we have is just half of this move looking to play out. Now there's two ways we can look at this. If we continue to hold this high of this 69,000, then potentially what we could have here is that this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we could be looking at this as a bigger B wave. If, however, we take this high, then basically it means that this cannot be a zigzag, because in a zigzag this B wave is not allowed to take the high. There is, however, another way that we could look at this, because within this idea, if we want to say rather that this is W, X, Y, X, and Z to the downside, what we could then see here is that this move can technically take this high. And if it does take this high, we need to be very careful. There are some upside targets here that I would be looking out for. The 1-to-1 is here at the 68,524. And then as well as that, if we do see something like a flat, some of these higher targets are potentially going to be zones we need to be looking out for. Now, looking at the internals of this, like I said, if we're looking at this as a zigzag, what we'd be looking for is that effectively this move is an A wave here, this is a B, and this is a C. Now, we have already come past this 1.382 level, so this has done enough now to actually be a C wave. We do have the potential to say that we have 5 waves completed, but we need to actually see the confirmation by actually starting to see it break down if this is the case. If, however, we start to continue to push up, you know, this could then mean that we're just extending. Alternatively, like we've said in the previous examples here, If we hold this low, this could become 1, 2, or alternatively, this could be 1, 2, 3. We could get a shallow retracement and get a fifth wave to the upside. It's going to be very important to see how we respond to the downside. Once we start to get a bigger retracement, it'll be easier to place where we are within this count. The alternative way of looking at this, if we do break this high here, is that this whole move could still be corrective, but we'd have to look at it slightly different. Like I said, what we would then be looking out for potentially would be something along these lines, where instead of taking this as a extra leg down here for the Z wave, what we would then be saying is that internally here, this move actually completes into this low. Now, with the completed move into this low, this would then mean that we have something like this as a flat correction to start the move for our W wave, this as an X wave here, and then potentially a B, and a C to the upside. Now, the 1-to-1 of this is currently sitting up here towards a 68,199. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that level. It's just below that other high as well. So if we do see price look to push up a little bit more from where we are, that's going to be an important zone. But we have actually pushed up past the 1.618 of this W wave. This normally doesn't get broken by much within a WXY. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. If we had to see price start to break down here and come onto the bottom of this, we need to just be aware that if we either start to see a 5-wave move to the downside, what we could then have is that this whole move is a B wave, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're looking for a flat correction, or alternatively we could see a bigger 3-wave move back to the downside. Now, given our current high that we have over here, this would actually push our targets down to 1-to-1 at 17,242. Alternatively, if we saw something like a truncation, I would be watching this 0.618 level. This has quite a bit of confluence here with these levels, so I will be keeping an eye on that. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.